Well, welcome everybody who is in the internet who are joining us. I'm Alexandra. I am the Chief Brand Officer here at Next Evolution, and we are so excited to be doing this first live webinar. And we ask in advance for your grace as we figure this live webinar out. It's our first time, so thank you for your patience. Today is going to be consulting what has been working for us, the strategies that have been successful, all with the goal that we can help empower your business, help you build a better ecosystem, and so that we all can regenerate the planet and see our dreams come true. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to you, Sumaya, the best ecosystem builder in the business.
In all humility. Hello, everyone. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome. So you can drop in the chat and let us know where you are tuning in from, which country, maybe what company you work with. And I'd love to hear the vibe you're coming with. Can you share one word that describes how you are feeling right now? So my name is Sumaya. I'm tuning in from Algiers in Algeria, and I'm the CEO of Next Evolution, founder and CEO of Next Evolution. I want to give a little bit of context on how we met with Alex because we met almost a year ago with Eneridym as we are on the path of leadership. And as we were navigating and learning about regeneration, we started sharing a lot about building a regenerative brand versus building regenerative ecosystem and what it really means and how it's growing and how we apply it. And a few months later, we started just working together and had this project of having a series of lives to talk about this. So Lee is tuning in from Edinburgh, from a business called Zebra Growth, coming with curiosity. We actually met Zebra Growth at Enrhythm. We had a live from Mo, I think your colleague or co-founder, Lee, or partner. And it was extremely interesting.
And I'm calling in from Los Angeles, California. And the one word that describes me is grateful and excited. Oh, that's 2 words.
Oh, and the word for me is joyful today. I'm very excited and joyful today.
Stephanie, where are you calling in from? Or do you know Sumaya?
I don't know. There are two options. She might be in Paris, maybe Ghana, but she either
France.
Paris or...
And also joyful. All right. Thank you for
So
playing with us.
Yeah, thank you. Imagine this or picture this. You wake up to referrals, like you do business on referrals, emails from aligned clients and partners. No overthinking, no aggressive outward sales where you cold DM. Fundraising flows with ease through connection or your interconnected web of relationships. You expand into new market with very little friction because of the trust you've built around you. And you stay ahead of trends in AI because you are rooted in something that is, I want to say, eternal, that it exists beyond these trends. It's just like the core identity of your business. You're rooted in that ecosystem and the web of interconnected relationships. You feel resilient in global chaos. And this one for me is very important because when the war started in Sudan, I had friends leaving Sudan with their businesses to Nairobi, to Tanzania, and to Cairo. And I realized that what kept them going and even what kept their businesses alive was actually that they were connected to an interweb and to an interconnected network of people that supported their move and the displacements that happened. So when we're talking, you feel resilient in global chaos, it would really mean like in the context of uncertainty, you are really resilient. Like when something happened, you are held by a web of interconnected relationships. And you and your business operate at a regenerative speed, which is like exponential speed. It's like a forest. The more it is fed and nourished, the more it just brings opportunity without you being efforting through that. So yeah, just imagine this. Can you picture and feel what it tastes like? You know, how does it feel for you to run the business or your business in a way that feels just like you're supported by an interconnected web of relationships?
I mean, it sounds like a dream to me.
That's all. So what happened? What happened is this is an example of an agroforestry project in Niger. These are two pictures from the same project, pre-1990s. And what we mean by today, it was like 10 years ago, because the second picture dates 10 years ago. But I love this image because this agroforestry project is like, just look at the soil on the left picture. It's dry, a dry soil. And even if it rains or even if there is nourishment, the land cannot even receive that nourishment. If you translate it for your business, it's like the lack of ability to even receive opportunities, receive fund, like receive client, like no soil ready to grow the seeds of new opportunity. That's the first picture. Like it's dry, there are little trees here and there. And look at on the right side, like the work of agroforestry was regenerating the land, nourishing the land, and creating a whole ecosystem of greenery that brings just more of life here. So there's a before and after. Just look at these two landscape, and this is the evolution that we are working towards, like taking a dry business with very little opportunities. A few trees here and there, these are maybe your clients or your partners, but there is very few interconnectedness. On the right side, what you can feel and see is like this. Just imagine the root system here, how it grew, like the number of roots that are interconnected and feeding each other and nourishing each other. Nourished soil can take on more nourishment. So if it rains, there is more nourishment, there is more biodiversity, there is more life in general, but it can also receive the nourishment. It can hold it better because of all the interconnectedness of all the beings and all the life that regenerating the land brought into this space. Feels very calm and comforting, says Lee, about the picture of the clients coming in and the interweb of connections holding you and holding the growth of the business. So my question for you is, and welcome Elias, I have a new one in the room. If you're a business, oh, there's a typo. If your business organization was a landscape, what would it be? We can take 1 or 2 minutes just to think about it today. If your organization or business was a landscape, what would that landscape be? I love this question because when I reflect and next evolution, the way when I was reflecting, especially early stage when I was alone and before even having a team and growing this, I was imagining it as an oasis. I'm Algerian, I'm very connected to the desert. And I love just the picture of you're walking alone in an arid desert and you after days of caravan, just with your caravan in the heat, in the big sun, you're dried up, you exhausted all the resources, and you land. The caravan stops in the caravanserai. What we call the caravanserai was like the hotels for the caravans. And this one is in Oasis. So you arrive after months of traveling in the desert and you just have access to this oasis of regeneration where you resource the caravan. You get more resources, you get more water, you get food, you just replenish everything, you rest for some time, and then you go back into the desert so full. And I always saw Next Evolution as an oasis of regeneration in the midst of an arid desert. And I would love to hear how if your business or organization was a landscape, what would it be?
Go ahead and get off mute if any of you want to be brave.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to. Yeah,
Yeah.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
Hi,
yeah. I guess
everyone.
sorry.
Go ahead.
On you go, Elias. On you go. On you go.
No. Please go ahead. I saw you also sent a message. You can start. I'll just follow. No worries.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I guess I can try and share mine. So where I went with this is I thought of where I stay, so Scotland, and I thought of like we have lots of like tiny little islands off the north coast of Scotland, northwest coast. And I was like visualizing like they're just so great to like hop between on like boat or whatever, but also like I feel like my business is kind of like these islands, but also like on a journey to understanding how like information and trade and relationship flows between these islands and still figuring that out. Yeah, I don't know if it's quite, I guess it is a landscape, but maybe I'm slightly cheating on the question, but that's what came to mind for me.
I love what you're describing. It's also rooted in your lineage, if I understand well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So were there like trade routes in this area, like historic trade routes that might need to be revived today?
Yeah, so I don't know enough about the lineage, but and history, but I would imagine so. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this because what's like when I was imagining the trade routes, as I was traveling in Africa and also in the Middle East, I realized with the pilgrimage in Mecca, there were like traders, people who would go to the pilgrimage. And even before Islam came, people were actually going to that same point for like matriarchal pilgrimage already. Like, yeah, we're talking about millennia, thousands of years ago. People were traveling, and it was the same routes even pre-Islamic, in the pre-Islamic area. They were coming from all over Africa and also from the Silk Roads. So there are historic trade routes coming in the desert and there are patterns existing in these roads. So you can go in the Mediterranean Sea, for example, and there are also trade routes between Europe and the Mediterranean. And if you go, in the British, like Scotland and Britain and Ireland, there are also trade routes with Europe and so on. And what we realize is when we talk about fragmentation and separation, it's also breaking these trade routes because of the borders that came up, or because of coloniality or whatever happens that broke these routes. And just thinking of which routes existed before, like and people were trading spices, they were trading rugs, they were trading also education. They would come with knowledge and they would take knowledge and go back. So these trade routes, when we imagine a landscape, and especially if it's located somewhere, we are able to just imagine and lean on the history to connect our business to these resources instead of trying to invent the wheel. Well, actually, there is a pre-existent, maybe not active yet, but like pre-existent ecosystem of relationships that can be reactivated. Does it make sense?
And Lee, I just wanted to add to that, as you were describing these islands in Scotland, I know I'm cheating a little because I know what you do, but I saw the birds and the butterflies creating these pathways of communication, right? These pathways of marketing communication that can really expand from your islands. So that's what I was seeing.
Thank you.
Elias?
Yeah. Hi. Sorry I joined late. I had a difficulty finding the link. But I don't know if this is really like a landscape, but I kind of imagine it like as if I was on like a river and then kind of like in a kayak, and then like sometimes like we're going really fast and we're going through all these like rapids, and then sometimes it's kind of like stagnant and we kind of have to push through. That's kind of like where my mind went with this, but yeah, I think that is it. I think that's kind of the whole picture I had.
I love that. Can you tell us about your business? What's the
Oh
name of
yeah,
the
of course.
business?
Sorry. I work with the Polar Store. I think Sumaya, Christian.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you're based in Korea?
Yes, exactly. I'm based in
Yeah,
Korea right now.
he mentioned it. Well, nice to meet you, Elias.
Nice to meet you too. So
So it's a
basically, just for
river.
everyone else on the call, we're a product agency. So basically, we build products or websites, mostly for other companies, and every now and then we build our own as well.
Fantastic.
So depending on your workload, the river's either choppy and crazy, or it's nice and peaceful, depending on the quarter and the pressure that you have on your business, is what I'm hearing from you, Elias,
Yes,
as well as the
definitely.
sea.
Yeah, so a follow-up question. Sorry, you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think it also. I'm a bit new to the company. It's been a few months only that I've joined. In that sense, maybe that's why I'm still kind of getting used to it, like the flow of things. But I do.
Yeah, because the follow-up question, like if we were in a proper workshop to facilitate, the second question is where would you like to take this landscape? Like the agroforestry, pictures that we saw, going like imagining that the first picture is like the current one. Okay. The first picture is a bit dried up. Like, what do you need to activate to bring more of life in your business? That would be the second one. How would you like to grow this landscape and support more of life in that landscape? So we're not going to explore this, but just keep it in mind if you reflect. What would be the next level of this landscape? Where would you like to take it? Do you want to flow more easier? Do you want maybe less like peak experiences and stagnation, and maybe, I don't know, I'm just projecting right now, but what would be the next thing? And thinking just of the islands that Lee shared about, what would be, you mentioned lack of interconnectedness. That's what I heard, if I'm not mistaken. But like, is it more like interconnectedness between the islands? What would that look like? What would that feel like? And what would be the information that needs to flow for that interconnectedness to be easier? So maybe efforting at the beginning to put the infrastructure in place and then just let it be and grow exponentially, just organically.
More harmony between product and growth.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
Alex.
thank you.
I love how you translated. So, question for you. Another one. Yeah. Where is growth stalling in your business organization? And that you can say in the chat. Where is growth stalling today? I'd love to see it in the chat if you want to share.
Do you need more sales? Do you need more harmony between product and growth? Do you need more birds flying in between the islands? More people on your team? Where is growth really stalling? You need more time? I always feel like
We
I need
can
more time.
we can have 1 more minute, I think. We have time. Let's be spacious. I like in extractive terms, bottom of funnel. This is where it's stalling. I'd love to hear what you mean by that, Lee, if you want to share.
Retention. Sounds like retention.
Yeah, so I think, sorry, I was just like ideating on the chat there. I think yeah, what I'm sensing, I think just sensing into shifting needs in like our ecosystem and community and realizing that actually those needs are shifting more than ever because of what's going on in the world, because of the pressure that people are under, but also just people feeling a bit burnt out, a bit overwhelmed, like in our target audience group, I guess. And that is like that's showing up in proposals slowing, in projects being de-scoped or cancelled at the last minute, and just a bit of tension emerging there, like more so than normal. Yeah, that kind of like frozen in their uncertainty. I would agree, Rhiannon. Yeah. Yeah, feeling that's where like a lot of my energy and attention is going at the moment.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Super, actually powerful because I think it's also very contextual and a lot of us can relate to what you're sharing. Elias is saying outbound marketing.
So he's on the other side of the funnel,
Mhm.
whereas outbound marketing is stuck. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to add a bit more detail to that or context to that, I would say I think there's like an element of like awareness that's a bit lacking in terms of like even like we have maybe strong networks, but those networks don't really know what we do or how we could help their businesses, and kind of that's really our role. Like that, we are here to help other people build what they need, and I feel in terms of like maybe the information that's out there maybe is not enough, or but I feel like it's more top funnel, and anyone who has worked with us before, or maybe someone who's maybe a bit closer to the business on like a network level would maybe have like less restraints to like start a new project with us or work or like ask us to like scope out a project or things like that.
Yeah, definitely relatable. And if we add uncertainty in the market, slowing down decision and approval of projects, that's going to be part of the use case we're going to talk about, but it's a huge one. Like in a very interconnected ecosystem feels safer and trust is easier to have. It's not the same, like it's not linear, of course, but I think I think there is a real question about the uncertainty that we are all facing, and the global movements these past 2 years have been wild. It's just energetically and emotionally and humanly. How do we? And we're not separate, right? We're not islands. We're not like disconnected islands. We feel it all. How do we navigate that and build at the same time and still grow? Because the only thing that's going to stay is what keeps growing, like the strength of the trees that we are planting and the seeds we are planting today. And Rhiannon, I can definitely relate to what you're saying. Like people are definitely, lots of people, I can see that in our ecosystem as well, like the freeze mode. Yeah, I feel the common stalling in the same, like growth stalling for this, around the same theme around uncertainty and freeze mode. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I think with our case study, we'll be able to hit on some of these items that you guys are feeling and how we create that flow between top and bottom funnel, as well as when you zoom out and at the macro level, it's full on chaos, how you handle that as well. So ecosystem building, this is what we're here today to discuss, why now, why you need this in your business, how it's going to work for you, and so what it is. Help us help you. So just a quick definition. This is the only slide that we have that we feel is super boring. I'll let you take this, Sumaya.
Yeah, I insisted on putting it here, but I feel like it's important how we define ecosystem building because we're using this word and lots of people are using this word. And just have a simple definition that we found on ChatGPT And that felt like very connected to the work we do. It's the practice of intentionally cultivating a network of interconnected actors, such as customers, entrepreneurs, investors, institutions, support organizations, policymakers, communities, like the whole ecosystem, even regulation, like everything that impacts and holds your business, even holds it back or helps it grow. Everything that contributes to from the existence to your business to its growth to its interconnectedness. So this ecosystem that collectively enable innovation, collaboration, and impactful growth. Basically, for me, ecosystem building is the business of connection. We build relationships instead of focusing on the transaction. Transactions and relationships last. Even when people become something else and build something else, relationships last and they transform and evolve as we evolve. As our businesses evolve, but also as our humans evolve, we find and reconnect to these humans and relationships we build. So it's way more grounded. We collaborate, we build long-term trust instead of short-term wins because we are focused on the relationship instead of the transaction itself. There is also a shared vision or shared cause or common ground. Instead of focusing just on an individual agenda and yearly goals, we are building something together in common. So it's not about any one entity succeeding in isolation, but about creating the conditions for many to thrive together. And it seems very, generic, but I really feel like my partners in my work and the clients and the people we work with, including, Christian, you mentioned Elias, he's one of my allies. Like he was never a client, but he's a supporter. I really feel like he's an ally for my business. And I feel like I'm an ally to his business. Like we are interconnecting our ecosystems and it feels very nourishing for both our businesses and ourselves as humans.
So now let's take that definition and bring it to life with the case study that we wanted to share. And we hope you find this really applicable to the pain points that you have right now in your ecosystem and in your business and organizations. So this case study is with a VC firm, and this VC firm wanted to expand into new African markets, really amplify their growth. Sumaya, I'll let you explain a little bit more about them.
Yeah, so they were present in 5 African countries and they are European based and they needed new African markets and more traction. They built a tech tool for investment in Africa, but they had no traction on the tech tool. They invested lots of money on the tech tool, but there was something missing and it was the relational aspect.
And when they came to us, they legitimately had both top of funnel and bottom funnel issues, as well as market uncertainty with expansion into Africa. So to make it a little bit more micro, what their key challenges were, they had an unclear brand story. And if you have an unclear brand, it's really hard to tell stories and to explain your value proposition as you're expanding into new markets. They had the pressure to increase sales and revenue. We all have this constant pressure to increase sales and revenue. Sumaya already said they had a tech tool and they needed new users. They needed to build traction. They had the pressure to close high quality deals, that bottom funnel relationship. And of course, they wanted to grow, access these new markets. So I know you guys aren't VC firms, but hopefully this is a very familiar case study and we chose this with intention. So what did we do? What was our assessment, Sumaya? What happened?
So the first thing about the assessment was the feeling of like a general lack of trust and disconnection. Like there was a fragmentation, disconnection from the market. Like there was a huge gap between European investors and African founders they wanted to invest in. It's like they weren't speaking the same language, they weren't in the same rooms, they weren't meeting, the worlds weren't colliding, and something was missing. So it was we found that what we call an ecosystem that was disconnected and fragmented. And when people are not in the same space, they don't speak the same language, they're not culturally considered similar, there is a huge lack of trust because we trust what we know. We trust people who look like us. We trust people who function like us. So if you have a German investor going to Nigeria, they feel lots of fear. Investing is harder than an African who is used to the kind of transaction, the way we do transaction. We make deals in Africa where it can be very organic and intuitive. They can feel lots of lack of safety. Also because regulation is also ever changing. I'm thinking Algeria as an example or Nigeria are very good examples of ever changing regulations that make investors feel unsafe. So all of these uncertainty stalled deal making and transaction making. And I think this was the most measurable pain of this disconnection and this level of fragmentation, because transactions were taking an average, like when I say transactions, like making a deal and investing was taking around 9 months to 12 months because of due diligence and lack of trust and blah blah blah. So we had to just go in depth in the assessment, and Alex is going to tell you more about everything that was part of that assessment.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, when we're looking at your ecosystem, we're looking at it holistically and seeing the common patterns that are occurring. So we zoom out and we see, okay, what we see is this huge lack of trust. And if we told you that, Lee or Elias or Rhiannon, you would be like, okay, well, how do we solve this, right? That's not good enough. Like, what do I do? What's the next step that I take in terms of solving what you guys are seeing in your assessment, which is holistically this ecosystem has, in this case, a lack of trust, right? And so going more into the micro pain points for this assessment, there were technology tool issues. The tool was great, and maybe your systems right now are great. Your client acquisition systems are pretty good, but there might be an opportunity to design it more around your brand story. You might have really great partners right now, but is your value proposition super clear? Is your brand story super clear so that you're able to build that trust no matter where your partners are in the cycle? Specifically for this VC firm, they didn't activate their flywheel for repeat connections. So they had growth and retention challenges. And they needed to really move and switch to, instead of transactional short term, to these long term high value relationships, trusting that their partners could come back later, next quarter, or bring them a new deal, a new opportunity. And then the last one was we saw that there was a lack of curation for member experiences. So again, no trust building. There was one too many one-off conversations without follow through. So I challenge you guys to really look at, are you following through on all the amazing connections that are coming into your business, into your ecosystem today? Anything else you'd like to add?
I want to add do you have systems to create the recurrence? Because what people trust is actually the consistency of coming back again, of being present. It's about presence. I'm ADHD, for example. It's very hard for me to be consistent with my presence to relationships. I need the systems to hold that for me if I want this consistency. Do you build systems? We build rituals, what we call, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what we did, but it's like, do you have rituals and repetitions and systems that can hold the repetition of staying in touch? And that's actually what maintains where the connection lives.
So before we tell you what we did, what would you?
Yeah, how would you build trust?
If you detach yourself from your business or you pretend you're solving this case study, how would you build trust?
Between the investors and the businesses in Africa, we mean?
Yes.
Give me a minute.
Or if it's easier, if you relate to these problems, to these issues, and it resonates with your business, you can share about your business as well. How would you build trust in your ecosystem, or what would you do?
Maybe I would start by I think that the thing that kind of activated my curiosity was when you mentioned rituals, and I feel like it should be rituals where those two parties can kind of connect and exchange information so that they understand each other better. I think that's kind of like where I would start, at least, like to have these kind of like friction points that are frequent and regular.
Brilliant idea. You're hired.
Awesome.
We're going to share this a bit more, but even Rhiannon is sharing about the follow through. She says, you're a she. I hope she's a she.
Yes,
The follow. Okay, great. The follow through is a big one for me. So I start there. I think it's a huge one. Like, if the first thing about trust is, do you follow through? And do you keep your word? Yeah.
Okay. What did we do, Sumaya?
The process and results. So I'm going to share with you just a visual framework about ecosystems for organizations. There are 3 levels, and depending on the nature of your business and where you want to grow, you might want to develop one side and more than the other. But for this one, we had 3 levels. There's the macro level, the meso level, and the micro level. The macro level is everything institutional, government agencies, alliances, like big strategic alliances with big institutions that can support the growth, especially in certain African countries. We went to Gabon. We had a partnership with the Ministry of SMMEs in Gabon. We, in South Africa, you do the same, like big ministries that can support the access to the market. So for this case specifically, we had to develop strategic alliances with institutions, which is there is no direct commercial alliances immediate, but we developed these partnerships and relationships as like a value exchange with these institutions to support them in their policy making, in their implementation policies and regulations and so on. But they open actually a whole new world, like just through that alliance. So macro level strategic alliances that position you in markets, in specific markets. Meso level, what we mean by meso level is the trees, like in a forest, it would be the big trees that are there for like 50-year-old trees or 80-year-old trees that are rooted enough. It's like we're talking big corporates. They have funds. They're funding startups, for example. They're not babies in the ecosystem. They're not, new life coming that needs support. They're already rooted enough. They're strong, but they're stronger if they're all interconnected. And the institutions and the governments and everything, we can imagine them like maybe older trees because they hold the fort with their regulations and their policy. Because if a policy wants to stop entrepreneurship and kill a business, they actually can kill it from one day to the other. So that's the macro level. Meso level is corporate, but also development agencies. So it's generally the space where money is flowing, where there is money, because there is history and cash flow is not an issue. Micro level, we're talking community. We're talking grassroots. We're talking founders. We're talking baby businesses starting to be birthed. We're talking people who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs and they don't know where to go and they have a good idea and they don't know where to go. So this is for this specific ecosystem, this is what it looked like. So for like regular business, it would be just like direct customers. Where are they? Like the B2 are generally in the micro, the B2B are in the meso, and the alliances are the access to market, what gives you the keys to the fort. And so we had strategic partnerships and alliances for macro level and meso level with big corporate, and usually there was transactions on the meso level, and micro level it was more like partnerships and build a community. So for this specific case, we built a community of investors. We built a membership community of investors, a community of ESOs, entrepreneurship support organizations, meaning incubators, accelerators, all these organizations that had startup founders, because this was a VC firm and they needed traction. And for the founders, we created a community of founders and we provided value. The value was we invested in basically educating, so skilling up, interconnecting them, and curating amazing experiences for them to exchange value and then deals. We were making money from the membership communities and from the deals that were made within the spaces we were curating. So the results were mind-blowing. Investors felt safer to engage early, and we reduced the transaction time from 9 months to 12 months, depending on the country, to approximately 4 months. That was the average. We increased investment readiness for startups, visibility, capital, training, and skills. And the partners found value in co-creating outcomes.
And so what is happening is that the brand is becoming so strong. And what I mean by the brand becoming strong is that the relationships are starting to be built on trust, and there's a clear communication of the mutual value proposition in this entire ecosystem. And then it translates into the tangible metrics that we all need in order to really prove that this ecosystem building works. And by metrics, they speak for themselves. We increased 90 to 600 investors in the platform within 1 year. That's a 567% increase. There was a 10x startup portfolio expansion from 110 to 1,000 startups. Sumaya already mentioned the partnerships with ESOs and supporting organizations. We completely restructured the governance framework for compounding growth, that flywheel, and forged over 25 strategic institutional partnerships, and then delivered 120 high-impact events. And these events were through masterclasses, fireside talks, demo days, coffee chats, investor trips, and neighborhood tours. So pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm curious to know how if this case study resonates with your ecosystem, and if so, how? What does it stir up for you and your business? What is coming up?
I think kind of makes me feel like I wish our company was in that ecosystem. No, but I think that for us, like if we kind of divide into macro, meso, and micro, as you mentioned, I kind of feel, I don't know if like I'm kind of like refitting what you mentioned to our case, which might not be very wise, but it feels like we're kind of focused on like the micro part, and it's hard for us to break through to like position ourselves better into other, like the next level, I would say. That's kind of that's how it made me feel.
Yeah,
I
it's on a
love that.
very big scale.
Go ahead.
I said it's on a I think I'm having the same trouble that Elias is, where it's on a different scale. So it's like entire countries. Huh. Like I would be happy with, a few firms in my city. So it's sort of hard to adjust your thinking on a scalar level, but you can see where it applies.
Yeah, this is our biggest case study because it was our longest client. We worked with them for 2 years, so we had time to build communities and have like long-term impact. It was really good. But the ecosystem we build is actually very connected to the results and the goals of the client. So it's also it can be very localized. What I invite you to do is applying the macro level, meso level, and micro level framework for your current business today. What would the macro be for you? Because as Elias was sharing, the over focus on micro, most of businesses are focusing on the micro because transactions actually happen in the micro, sometimes in the meso. That because the B2C, if you have a B2C business and your clients are on the micro level, you're gonna be focused there. But what gives access to new markets, what widens, is actually investing in something that doesn't feel directly related to selling, but actually opens the space to a whole new audience that can become a new customer. And that's what an ecosystem is. It's like you're a forest and you bring like a whole new portion of life to add to your forest, and it will strengthen everything, if that makes sense.
I think, Rhiannon, for you, it's really going back to that value proposition. Right. What you provide, as well as what happens, in your city, and the partners that you want to work with, what happens for them as well. That mutual value proposition is how you start to begin the ecosystem. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and Elias, from what you were sharing, I think going a little bit wider, like more general, is like micro is very focused, more general with open like new horizons. Yeah, I love this case study. It does not resonate of course all the time, but it's so huge, as you're saying, Rhiannon. And we covered so many topics, and it's really like great success story in terms of impact. So it's big and it's global, but it's the frameworks I like work for the smallest business. We apply them to Next Evolution as a consulting business. It's the same ones. And we even worked with nonprofits to structure the networks to their ecosystem to ease the fundraising for them and to grow their impact and to structure the networks basically, just structure them. And they don't have customer base, but they have communities and grassroots communities, and they have big budgets that they don't know how to allocate, and money is circulating in the same spaces, so they need to diversify. The micro needs to be more diverse for the macro to be bigger, or even the meso, for their impact to grow bigger. So everything, like the scale, is completely adaptable to any structure that needs to grow, that needs fund, that needs to diversify the soil of their organization, basically.
And not to overwhelm you both, but to empower you. One key thing that we really like to get across in ecosystem building and building your brand strategy and position is that you're interconnected to the whole planet. So the work that you're doing at this micro level in your city, in Korea, wherever it is, it truly matters and interconnects with all of us. So keep doing your important work. And with that, we're coming up on time. We hope you enjoyed this session today. We would love to help you evolve your business. We are here for you. Any follow-up questions that you have for us to really get your ecosystem to the next level. And we'll be doing another live. So let us know if you like this workshop, if you like this format, how we could improve. And we thank you so much. And we'll stay on for any questions and answers that you guys may have for us. And again, thank you so much. We are so grateful for your time, your energy, and all the amazing work that you're doing.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
we have 11 more minutes. So if you want to bring your business like more details, are we able even to go out of live next and
I
stay together?
have no idea.
But If you're open to be live right now, feel free
I
to
think we
share and we can
we could
discuss.
stop the live. Let me stop the live, and then we can go deeper into your guys' case studies if you'd like.
Yeah.